Me, I'm a little feral. I already mentioned that from COVID, so I'm not really used to talking to people, so I'm going to warm up a bit. And it's early, too. I am a poet. This is very poetic weather, so thank you for coming out today in the fog and also in December during holiday season. And thank you, Bill, for having me. We've known each other for several years. In 2013, I left a 20-year relationship, and that summer started Keep St. Pete Lit. The Maureen Art Center had reached out to me about putting on a poetry showcase, because in 2011, my third poetry book, which is my second poetry book, I did a book release party there. So, a poetry showcase, I wanted to show all different types of poetry, because I myself was self-published, and that in 2013, the self-publishing world hadn't quite taken off quite yet. Because, Facebook came online in 2008. Everything's happened so fast, but, this really all has happened rather recently. So we did this poetry showcase, and we included at the time St. Pete Poet Laureate Peter Mikey, who did become Florida Poet Laureate, and several other spoken word artists and poets, and people sang their poetry. And Peter Mikey's wife afterwards came up and said, this was like an art event. It wasn't a typical literary event. So my gears started going, and I didn't realize that I had a latent nonprofit executive director inside me. So I got together some friends, and we decided to create an organization called Keep St. Pete Lit. I had been on the poetry scene since about 2000, early 2002, and had my first book release had come out at the Studio 620 in 2006. Studio 620 started in 2004, and they were part of starting the literary renaissance in St. Petersburg. They kind of held the torch. We had the Maureen Art Center, we had the Museum of Fine Arts, we had the Dali Museum as anchors, but it was still kind of fledgling in some ways. So we started Keep St. Pete Lit, and I started it with no nonprofit experience, no money, and not knowing anyone with money, but I thought it would be fun. So Keep St. Pete Lit started, and here we are 9 years later. We survived the pandemic. I come from a punk rock background, so I thought, I don't want a brick and mortar. I want to keep things light. We want to pop up places. And we did an event with Carrie Jadis and Mark Ailing at the Softwater Studios called Fantastic Ekphrastic, where we took local artists, and then we had 16 writers write about their art, and then Bob Devin Jones curated performers to perform the writing in front of the art. And that kind of created this concept of almost like an art prom. And Fantastic Ekphrastic, the idea of ekphrastic writing, which is writing about art, kind of took off in the community. And people were, everybody was kind of staying in their lane. And when the St. Pete Art Alliance came up online, was about a year or two before Keep St. Pete Lit, which started in 2013. And the local movement was growing, so it was just this time of creative genesis throughout the city, the Shine Mural Fest, and we all were friends. We were all around the same age. We were all like, this is fun, let's do this. And here we all are later. We have over 400 murals in the city. The city is exploding, I truly believe, because of art. And luckily, because I started this organization, we got 2 more bookstores, not because of me, that sounds kind of egotistical, but the literary community grew, and the art community grew. And then Tombolo Books came into St. Pete, Book and Bottle came into St. Pete, and also St. Petersburg Press. I don't know if Paul Wilburn's been here to speak. A lot of other local writers are publishing through them, and they are through the St. Petersburg group, which also has the Catalyst newspaper with Joe Hamilton. So this press started, which I go, wow, this is cool. A press is now here to publish my work. So this book, Feast, is my third poetry book, and it came out this year. And all during this time, I was raising a child. So when I left my marriage in 2013, I was commuting from Seminole, living in my mother's house with a car with no air conditioning, and the driver's side window wouldn't go down. But my daughter was going to school at Perkins Elementary, which is the art magnet in St. Pete, and it's an hour round trip. So I was commuting every day because my daughter had art talent. And now she went to Johns Hopkins Middle after, which is the feeder school, and now she's in the PCCA program at Gibbs. So she did the artwork for my book. So it really is full circle to kind of create this reality. Keep St. Keela supports my poetry habit, supports my kids' art habit, and also supports my community. So it's really exciting, and follow your dreams, because you really have no idea where they'll lead you. You might not have air conditioning for a while, but eventually you'll get there. So I'm going to read a couple poems, and then we can open up to questions. I hope you all followed me in my train of thoughts. All right. So these poems were written over a 10-year period. The goal is not to have 10 years between books. But, you know, I was starting a literary organization, single parenting, raising a child. This, you know, as a writer, you have to carve out time, and you don't necessarily have to do it the way everyone else does it. I tell people there's not one right way to be a writer. You have to find your own way. Some people want to be in public, some people want to be at home, some people like to write on the computer. I prefer to write by hand. I write 3 pages in my journal every day. I kind of process my emotions. Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way, really was the starting point for me. She calls it morning pages, and you get all, you're like, this person made me mad, and I'm upset about this, and I can't pay these bills out of the way, and then the muse. So these poems grew out of that daily journal writing, and I compiled them into this book. And it's funny with poems because they all have their own personality. I never really know where they're going to take me, but I have to just trust that they deserve a voice. So all of them have a special place in my heart. So this first poem is called All That Is Required. When I was younger, I liked to label things, put everything in little boxes that I could store on my mind's shelf. I felt in control that way, everything nice and tidy. Yet life does not work out that way. People do not like to be labeled. Love is too big to be contained. Nice and tidy gets boring. What do I do with this new information? How do I feel safe in a chaotic world? People die, friendships change, and the words do not always come. Trying to find an answer to something that is unanswerable was part of my original problem, and blind faith that I will be safe is all that is required. Bill mentioned that I was a local celebrity. That's funny. I was just like, I don't know why I just brought that up, but it's funny to be a poet and like somebody say something like that about you, because I still think of myself, even though I run Keep St. Keela as a writer. This poem, you can see my daughter's artwork is interspersed throughout the book. St. Petersburg Press, this was their idea. My kid, I said, I need some artwork for my book, and she says, are you going to pay me? So I was like, I raised you right. You want an artist to always ask that question, right? And she's 15, so we're slowly looking at colleges. But she's definitely a muse for me throughout the book. And this poem's called Playing with Dolls. We are drowning in doll limbs and broken bits of unrecognizable toys. Our 5-year-old hums as she rips apart her clothes drawer to find the perfect outfit. She has no concept of good clothes and play clothes. Everything is play to her and definitely good. Some days I feel so far away from these concepts, I forget to find joy in play. I feel every other word but good. I pick up a plastic leg and an arm. The disembodied doll's hair is astray. I often feel this way. I then realize I need to play until I can put myself together again. So I think I'm at 10 minutes, am I rambling? One more poem about my daughter also as a muse. This is called Jersey Daydreams. Riding in the bus on the Jersey side, I nudge your 7-year-old self to look across the Hudson at the New York City skyline. So many lives bustling about, dreams being made and broken. That's nice, you say. Don't you realize how fortunate you are? You get to go on grand adventures, exploring places different from where you were born. I am hungry, you say. Your young mind is nestled safely, unencumbered. My adult mind regularly crashes while narrowly escaping one existential crisis after another. I am thirsty, you say. The basics, the bone and marrow of life. Simplify, trim the fat. You remind me daily to live like that.